Private Lender Podcast, episode 127.
The Private Lender Podcast quote of the day comes to us from Norman Vincent Peale, who said, "Empty pockets never hold anyone back. Only empty heads and empty hearts can do that."
This is the Private Lender Podcast, the show that shares practical advice and know-how for new and seasoned lenders. From private mortgages on single-family houses to joint ventures on commercial projects and beyond. Discover details about investment vehicles that you won't find at your local bank or online broker. Listen and learn from private lenders and real estate investors, as well as from professionals and entrepreneurs, as they share the details, strategies, and the insight that allows for successful and prosperous lending. Now, get ready to increase your ROI. Here's your host, Keith Baker.
Hello, Private Lender Nation, and welcome to episode 127 of the Private Lender Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Baker, and I'd like to thank you for sharing your time with me today. If you're looking for practical tips and advice on private lending and how to keep your money safe as a private lender, then you are in the right place. But if you want to learn from my mistakes so that you can avoid them, pull yourself up a chair, pour yourself a drink, my friend, because this podcast is just for you. In today's episode, we're going to continue to explore the lessons found in the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Today, we'll be discussing the third law of wealth, or in the book, it's called the third law of gold, but it's still written in that old kind of fake old English way. So I'm trying to modernize it and bring the vocabulary and the grammar into the 21st century. Very scary, I know, if I'm the one that's trying to do that. So anyhow, today will be another quick episode, but I do give you full permission to get off the treadmill or the elliptical machine as soon as this episode concludes here in just a few minutes. So, permission granted. Feel free. Get your Coca-Cola on the way out of the gym. But before we get to the heart of the matter, I need to do a little housekeeping first. If you're looking to join the community of private lenders, go over to facebook.com/private lender podcast for the Private Lender Podcast group. It's open to the public. You do have to answer some questions to get in because, well, I want to see if you can follow instructions. I rarely ever do. So I'd like to put that test out there. And two, just need to make sure that I keep this group only for those of us who are lending. There will be other groups for people who are looking for money or putting deals together. But for the time being, this is just for us private lenders. So remember, facebook.com/private lender podcast. And also, in early July 2021, shortly after the 4th, around the 6th or the 7th, the Private Lender Academy is going to drop. It's going to launch. I'm very excited. I keep telling everybody I'm going to do this, and so I have to keep doing the work to make sure that I achieve this and hit the goal that I'm setting out. So go over to privatelenderacademy.com for more information. And if you'd like to perhaps get on the list to get some discounts or some group coaching calls, go ahead and click on Apply Now and just provide a little bit of information about your investing experience, for what you're looking for, and you will get emails notifying you of some special goodies that are coming out pre-launch. So that's it for now. Okay, so housekeeping is finished. Back to the show. Today's topic is another lesson, like I said, from The Richest Man in Babylon, written by George Samuel Clason. And you can go back and catch up the episodes that we're dealing with the Richest Man in Babylon, are episode 114, 116, 118, 120, and 123. Today is the 6th installment in which we'll be discussing the third law of gold or wealth. And like so many lessons in this life that we should heed, the principle is quite simple, but we humans seem to have trouble with the execution. So let's get down to the brass tacks and discuss the third law of wealth, which states, wealth clings to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise in its handling. In the next paragraph, the book goes on to say, gold or wealth indeed clings to the cautious owner, even as it flees the careless owner. The man who seeks the advice of men wise in the handling of gold soon learn not to jeopardize his treasure, but to preserve in safety and to enjoy in contentment its consistent increase. So if you follow the lesson sequence from this book and the way I'm putting it together on the podcast, you're already saving 10% of your income to invest at least. I always suggest more. You're controlling your expenses, living below your means. You're looking to make your money work hard for you. And now we come to where seeking advice from people who are wise in the handling of money will benefit you greatly. People who know how to protect money and people who know how to make it multiply. And if you think back, those just so happen to be the first two core values of private lending: return of investment and return on investment. Return of investment, making sure that you protect the money, and then the return on the investment. That's how you make it multiply. And in the book, I hope these names are correct, Rodin, the spear maker, visits Mathan, the seller of jewelry, fine fabrics, but he's also the gold lender of Babylon. And Mathan's advice to Rodin is seek to associate yourself with men and enterprises whose success is established so that your money may earn liberally under their skillful use and be guarded safely by their wisdom and experience. So what does this mean to the private lender? Well, it basically means, in the easiest of terms, lend money only to flippers to flip houses, or only to landlords to landlord the houses, right? Or even acquisition or bridge loans to people that are accustomed to doing that. Example, acquisition or bridge loan. You want to make sure, if you loan the money, that's fine to acquire the house, but you want to make sure there's a bank or some commercial paper behind it that's going to cash you out, refinance you out at the end of it so you can get your money back. Otherwise, your money's going to be held hostage. I like to look for gray hair, as you know, but I have and I will continue to lend to youthful experience. Chris Funk was in his 30s when I loaned to him, but he'd been investing for like 7 or 8 years at the time, and he had a good track record. So it's gray hair is no guarantee for success either. Don't get me wrong, but just look for experience and wisdom, and never, ever lend to anyone who, quote unquote, needs this deal. That is a red flag. To me, that's the equivalent of someone calling you and saying, I need to rent your house. Can I move in tomorrow? I've got a cash deposit. Heck no. No. We have a process. We follow it. We go through it and to protect our money and ourselves. So that is, that's the equivalent red flag. I need a deal as someone who's going to move into your rent house and not move out, and you're going to lose lots of money. Another thing is, one of my favorites is when folks come up looking for hard money, I always ask them, have you taken this to a hard money lender yet? And about half the time they say no, and the other half the time they say yes, and they won't finance everything for me. Well, there's a reason for that. Because if they did, they feel like they would be putting their money or the money they borrowed from somebody else in jeopardy. So they're not going to do that. And if a hard money lender won't lend to you, why should I? Why should I take on that extra risk? So make sure when you're putting your money to use, and I talk about my underwriting criteria, process, the person, their process, and the property, right? So it starts with the person. Are they going to cut their own throat to make you whole so they can borrow your money again? Or are they going to say, oh, I got mine, it didn't work out, oops, my bad, sorry, right? Do they have integrity? Do they have grit? That's a good place to start. All right, I told you it's going to be a short episode today, folks. And here's the deal. I don't charge money for the show. There's a cost to produce it, and I would be forever grateful if you could go over to iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to my voice, and leave me an honest rating and review. Honest, I'd love 5-star, but if I don't deserve it, I don't deserve it. Just please be honest. That's all I ask. Also, if I would lean heavier to iTunes, because there's still the 400-pound gorilla in the room. They're still leading that metric. But if you could help drive some awareness to the show, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. It'd mean the world to me. And it doesn't take that long. And I personally believe that it's a small price to pay. Take about 30 seconds over and just tell me that I'm going bald, or I'm gaining weight again. Something pleasant, just something nice. Just going over and do it. And don't forget, if you're looking to build your stable of private lenders or turn people into private lenders, send them my way. Let them know about this. Let them know about the show. Let them know about what I'm doing, what I'm teaching, and why I'm teaching it. Make them get comfortable with the idea, so that they're not just getting steered. They don't feel like they're getting steered. They get some objective advice. Their friends doing this job. It fits. It looks good. Boom. That might be a good idea. But anyway, send them a text, an email, a DM. Introduce me. I'd really appreciate it. And that is going to wrap it up for episode 127. And so just a few final thoughts there. Again, please go over to the Facebook group, Private Lender Podcast Facebook group. Remember, the Private Lender Academy is launching just around the 4th of July weekend, or just after, around the 6th or the 7th. You can go to privatelenderacademy.com for more information. And as I sign off, in addition to self-awareness, I wish you safe and prosperous private lending. And I'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Private Lender Podcast with your host, Keith Baker. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit privatelenderpodcast.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time.